Everyone good? Great.
A real important role model for me was Bill Russell, and just his dignity and competence really, that spoke to me, because he was very excellent. He was the best player in the NBA, and he had pride and a way of carrying himself that, I wanted to emulate that. There were a couple of people that I saw that had that quality. There was a guy that I met that played for the Knicks and then got traded to the Celtics, Willie Knowles. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he went to UCLA, and Willie was like a mentor. And people like that really had a positive influence on me as far as how to carry myself, because there was a lot to be angry about in those days. And you go out and all people see is your anger, and they don't understand it. That makes for a really negative negative atmosphere for communication. So it was really important to understand that. Yeah, I was a writer in grade school. The nuns sent me to like essay contests and stuff like that. I took part in a mentoring program, summer of '64, and Dr. King addressed the people in our program. It's called the HARUAC, the Harlem Youth Unlimited. And basically it was designed to challenge us to figure out how we were going to make Harlem a better place. Start thinking about that, what can you do as someone from this community to make it better? And we started thinking in those terms, and what was my community and why was it important? Until you understand those issues, you don't really know what to do. So I really think that summer helped me. And after Dr. King spoke to all of the participants in the program, he did a little press conference, and I was in a journalism workshop. So I got to go with the journalist to interview him, and I was able to ask him a question, and I spoke to him. And didn't realize how important that was in my life, but over the years it's been a connection that has been more and more important to me. I remember in Life magazine, there was a shot he did of a gang member, and I was trying to figure what that was all about. There was a book by Claude Brown, Man-Child in the Promised Land, and I think Gordon did some photography in association with that book. Gordon's photography really captures the essence of the community. It depicts the people in Harlem where they live in real terms, not distorted terms, just showed them coping with what they had to deal with. I think Gordon's ability to state things simply and with the reality of it, really, that was his strength. I met Muhammad Ali when I was a freshman at UCLA. I was 19. He was on Hollywood Boulevard doing magic tricks. Just for people walking by, I was on Hollywood, so I had some friends that lived up there. And we were on Hollywood Boulevard and we saw him. We said, "Hey, wait, that's Muhammad Ali." I mean, he was just, he enjoyed just appearing and doing stuff like that. And then about a week or two after that, I saw him at a party, and we talked and started a friendship. I always thought that he was incredible just because of how he dealt with Sonny Liston. I was in high school when he had the fights with Sonny Liston, and the time that he went to Sonny Liston's camp and had Sonny chasing him. I was like, he was amazing. I was in love with him at that point. I just thought the world of him, and he was like that in person. He was for real. He was very genuine, and within like a year of me meeting him, that was spring of 1966. Spring of 1967, we did the Cleveland Summit. The guys that were there just wanted to understand where he was coming from. And it was very obvious, to me at least, that he was very comfortable in his confrontation with the federal government, and he believed in what he said his position was. He believed in it, and he was going to live or die. He was going to take that path. I was particularly honored to be invited to just observe. You know, that's all I was doing. I guess you know, we had just won the NC2A tournament, so I guess my prominence as far as, you know, people who are into basketball realized who I was. So maybe that gave me a little bit of cachet to be invited to it. But I was very happy to go. You know, I'd known Bill Russell since I was 14 years old, and you know, I felt comfortable, you know, around him, and I really understood where he was coming from with regard to civil rights. Well, he just said, I'm not going over to Vietnam to fight the Viet Cong. The people that I feel most threatened by live in the United States. That was his statement. He said the people that I have the most issues with live in the United States, and I'm going to deal with it here. He was always very genuine. He told it like it was. He didn't waste any time and didn't waste any words. And I think the clearest that he said, you know, ain't no Viet Cong ever called me nigger. Wow. That crystallized it for all black Americans. You know, why are we going over there to fight them, and when the people that oppress us live in America and don't think that we're human? So, you know, he was able to make it very clear immediately. People that took risks kind of made Gordon probably squeamish. People who were too confrontational or, you know, not confrontational enough. I mean, there's a fine line there, and, you know, everybody has their own idea of what that is. So I'm sure Gordon must have gone through it with Ali, because he was all over the place at times, you know. At the time that Muhammad Ali was opposing the Vietnamese War, he was very controversial, and most white Americans thought that he was racist and anti-American. And he really surprised people when he said that, you know, that he was taking a stand for himself and for all Americans who did not support the war, and that really probably blew a lot of people's minds. I think Gordon's photographs really showed black life with all of the nuance, and you know, I think that's what Gordon gave us. You know, he gave us the whole picture, you know, with nuance, and wow, and that's very important. You know, his photographs will live because of that. I feel that I had the courage to take a stand because of the examples that I'd seen, and that would have to include, you know, what I had learned about Jesse Owens, Jackie Robinson, Bill Russell. It made it easy for me to do that. I stood on their shoulders. I followed their example. You know, I think back to like how I couldn't understand why they killed Emmett Till. I was 8 years old when Emmett Till was murdered, and I didn't know, what was that all about? I couldn't understand it. And finally, as it came clearer to me, I figured out what I wanted to do about it. And I think one of the people that had a profound effect on myself and most black Americans was James Baldwin. The Fire Next Time. You know, I read that, I was 13 years old. And it was profound, because all that confusion and uncertainty about what was happening and why, James just wrote it out in plain English. enabled me to orient myself and figure out what I wanted to do. I saw Emmett Till's photograph in Jet magazine. I'll never forget it. And the thing that gets me, just recently, you got people going on there taking shots at the Emmett Till Memorial where they threw him in a river. And, you know, these are just these actions are done by people who just want to twist the knife. You know, they take pleasure in twisting the knife, and they don't know how pathetic they are. Some of them I still get very emotional. The photograph of the marchers crossing the Edmund Pettus Bridge, and right when they see the police officers coming down to beat on them, that one, oh man. And, you know, I've spoken to John Lewis. I've had that privilege. And he just said he had an apple in one pocket and his Bible in the other, and he just braced himself. That kind of courage is incredible. They're a direct result of the civil rights movement. They're an extension of it. It's just what we have now in terms of images and ideas about what's going on that started back basically when, at the end of World War II, when Black Americans figured that they could do it. Well, I think it's just having to deal with all these really tough memories. I mean, some of those photographs, Gordon got it. He absolutely got it. I think everybody contributes to the effort, however they see fit. I think that's what happens. I remember when I went to the memorial for Muhammad Ali, and all the people that were there, that brought back all these memories. Oh my goodness. And you know, Howard Bingham was still alive. And you know, just the power and urgency of that movement, we can't forget that, because we need it. Well, when I got to the Cleveland Summit, I was just really, it was thrilling to see like a black mayor coordinating with black men that had some kind of economic power and social power, you know, black athletes. This wasn't just another timid effort. It had some teeth in it. That's what appealed to me. I mean, these were people that a lot of people respected and who were used to getting things done. And my hopes were that, you know, the community would gel around that. I always thought Jim Brown was kind of a progressive guy. He was always talking about the next step. You know, he said, I can't play pro football forever, I'm going to be an actor. You know, he wasn't talking about just fading into the background. He wanted, he saw himself as being worthy and capable of anything. And you know, that type of confidence is contagious. So I you know, I had a lot of respect for him, for that reason. Bill Russell was a lot quieter on those subjects, so you had a lot of different viewpoints, but they all helped encourage black people to have the will to stand up. There were some black athletes who felt that we were not going to achieve anything by rocking the boat. But I thought the hypocrisy of it all really demanded that somebody make a statement about the Olympics, because the type of racial harmony that the United States wanted to project in the Olympics didn't exist in the country. People were dying. Dr. King had just been assassinated. The fact that Dr. King had just been assassinated, and you have Avery Brundage, still the chairman of the Olympic Committee. Avery Brundage is the guy that didn't want Jews to compete in the Olympics in 1936 because it would annoy Hitler. And I wasn't going to go and participate in the Olympics where he was in charge. I wasn't going to do that. Colin Kaepernick, I think, is the person that they tried to scapegoat, and he didn't buy into it. And I thank you, Colin. Thank you for your courage, and thank you for your persistence. I talked to Colin. I know Dr. Edwards. He was working with the 49ers, and he had a chance to talk to Colin. And Colin understood what he was doing and understood what it would cost him, but it was important to him. And I'm glad to see that I hope that he gets a shot and gets a chance to play a couple more years. He's a talented athlete. He deserves a shot. It was still interesting seeing a black man portrayed as a private eye doing those kind of things. And in that sense, it was intriguing and interesting. It was very entertaining in that sense. She's had some authority, had some respect, commanded respect. I think that's really what that assertion was all about. And now they have there's a new Shaft movie with Samuel L. Jackson. It's kind of hard, because that's not the reality of the black community. But the whole thing of pimps and drug dealers and Superfly, it's a world that doesn't really exist. But I guess that satisfied people's idea of what the black community should be about. That's kind of hard to figure out. I think Gordon's photography gave us a sense of perspective. And, if you look at it and date it, you see the evolution of the civil rights movement and black Americans finally becoming involved in political process and different, different parameters of success. I think, if you look at his photographs, it's a great chronological record of just what the 20th century was about for black Americans. I think Gordon's photographs really made America realize that black Americans have been part of the American experience from day one. Even if they don't want to acknowledge it, there we are. There we've been. Here are the photographs. I think that that chronological depiction of our participation really is important. And Gordon really saw to it that we got the right type of attention, that they showed us as we really are. Yeah, I met him. They did a movie about a black tank battalion, and they debuted it in Lincoln Center. And I knew one of my dad's friends was in that unit. They liberated Dachau. They liberated Gunskirchen and Mauthausen death camps, and really didn't get any recognition. So I was very interested in the story. So that's when I met Gordon. He was there. Lena Horne was there. There's a whole lot of people that were very prominent in the black effort during World War II. A lot of them were still there. So it was very, very moving evening for me. Gordon was everything that I expected. You know, I knew who he was, and you know, the pictures he took of Adam Clayton Powell Jr., you know, all those things. I wanted to talk to him about all that stuff, but it was such a busy evening, I didn't get a chance to, but it was nice meeting him. The ones that he took in various places, the ones on 125th Street, I always, because, you know, going on, right, we moved from Harlem, but just out to the edge of Harlem, just up a mile north of Harlem. I lived in northern Inwood. I don't know if you're familiar with Manhattan, right? So as a kid, I had to go to Harlem and get my hair cut. I had to go to Harlem. My mom, when she shopped, she would go down to Harlem, you know. So I was always going in and out of Harlem, and so I'd see images of 125th Street. I just I feel like at home. I think of my mom's friends that we would visit or accidentally run into on 125th Street. It was just a whole experience that was like going to the middle of the city. Downtown, you know, was for white folks, but 125th Street was ours, you know. And so Gordon's photographs of that area, that, you know, that always is gonna make my heart beat faster, you know. Harlem wasn't a utopia, but in the New York metropolitan area, you could get a job, and you know that's what happened. But it wasn't heaven. But for example, Louis Armstrong comes to New York and plays a writer from the Herald Tribune, or I think heard him and said, hey, some really great trumpet player up in Harlem. It's that type of thing where all of a sudden Harlem represented some place where black people could be acknowledged and appreciated for real things and important things, not just you know, the stereotype image of black Americans. I mean, Harlem gave black Americans a chance to be appreciated like that. I think that was the importance of it. My family represents both ends of the Great Migration. My grandfather came to New York in 1917 from the West Indies, and my mom came to New York 1939 or 40 to work as a domestic. You know, that's the beginning and end of the two ends of the Great Migration. And my dad met my mom, and that was that, you know. But Harlem represented a place where you might be able to find an opportunity, where it wasn't just closed the way the South was. And I think that's the importance of Harlem. Gordon showed black people succeeding. Josephine Baker, Duke Ellington, Louis Armstrong, he got Bill Robinson, who loved the Harlem community, built parks, did stuff. Bill Robinson gave Jackie Robinson a Cadillac after he was Rookie of the Year. I mean, just incredible stuff used to happen in Harlem. The fight between Joe Louis and Max Schmeling, I mean, just Harlem took part in some really fantastic moments. One, I remember the photographs he got, they told Castro had to come to the United Nations. The FBI told him, all right, you have to live, you can stay in Manhattan. You can't stay any place other than Manhattan. So Castro stays at the Hotel Teresa on 125th Street. And, you know, Gordon got pictures, you know, and I just remember that. Gordon was in tune. He knew what was going on, you know, and he was always there. The Hotel Teresa in New York and the Dunbar Hotel here in Los Angeles. That's all the famous black people, they had to stay in one of those places if they traveled to those two cities, because there weren't a whole lot of hotels that would accept black patrons. Basketball definitely was something that allowed me to make a statement about that I could be excellent and successful, and that I had some dignity and pride, and I hoped that it would be acknowledged. And I tried to conduct myself in a way where it would be acknowledged and respected. Yeah, in my writing, there's a whole lot more to it, you know. But when you think about all the things that we didn't have back then when Gordon first started, it's amazing what, you know, black Americans have achieved, but, you know, we still have a lot to do. I think that some of the victories, you know, people understand now that we are human beings, and we deserve some acknowledgement of our humanity. That's starting to get through to people now, and that wasn't always the case. So, gotta thank Gordon for that. Yeah.